From the Ballers Discord channel, this is the Baller Locker Room, where we talk all things baller. My name is Alex, and today we get to sit down and chat with the creative lead from NFTGenius. We get a peek inside on what his job entails, his thought process when designing ballers and sneakers. So please enjoy episode 12. Disclaimer. The Baller Locker Room podcast is not affiliated with NFTGenius or Ballers NFT. All discussion here is not financial advice and a solicitation to purchase any past, present, and future Baller NFTs. All right, welcome to the 12th episode of the Baller Locker Room. Today, we have none other than the creative lead, the biggest brain behind NFTGenius, Baller's Design. It is none other than MoHDI, GM. And welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you. I don't know if I'm the biggest brain, but on that, but I love the intro. It's great. Thank you. And my name is Drew as well. I go by MoHDI or Drew. Either one. MoHDI stands for Millions of $100 Ideas. I've had that moniker for a long time. So thanks for having me.
That's why you're the biggest brains.
I don't know about that.
Joining me as co-host is MP33.
Oh yeah, baby. Here we go. Bing bong. We are here with the man, Drew. I mean, that is an epic. I had no idea what your screen name meant or your avatar name, whatever you want to call it. But I love that mantra. So thanks for the introduction. Excited to chop it up with you. And I mean, listen, I've been out of the game for a few weeks here, Alex. Appreciate you holding it down. And I mean, this is going to be an epic episode. We just had a Spaces, tons to be excited about. We're rocking and rolling. I mean, come on, dude, right?
Exactly. You know, Q1's updates were launched. We got a brand new Spaces, so much more updates from the team. We're pumped. I hope all the listeners are, and we're gonna dive right in with lightning questions for Drew.
Right.
Could you tell the audience where you're from, where you grew up, what made you pick Baller ID 1002 as your PFP?
I grew up in Oregon. I'm born and raised in Oregon. I live in Portland, Oregon right now. I've lived in a few different places. I lived in New York for a while. I lived in Wisconsin. I lived in Seattle. And I always gravitate back to Portland. And that comes back to my baller that I use as my PFP. For the most part, they are I didn't have too many choices as far as ballers go, and that was one of the things with my initial contract was I was able to get a baller out of this, and I wanted to have a Portland Creatures for sure, and this guy was, he's a little nerdy, and that kind of fits with me. I'm still waiting. I'm still browsing the market though, so and then I did a little tweak to my baller on my PFP and Twitter sometimes, and sometimes I'll mix it up a little bit, but that's kind of why I chose him, mainly because he's a captain as well, so that there's something there that I like about that too. So
you're a man after my own heart. I am a captain PFP as well, my friend. Las Vegas Scorpion, but captain. I heard New York and Seattle, so that touches my heart as well. So I live in New York, grew up around the area, and Seattle. Actually, my wife is from Seattle, so our entire relationship is pretty much West Coast, East Coast, New York, Seattle. Interesting to hear that. Where in New York did you live?
I was in Brooklyn. I kind of lived over in between, kind of over by Pratt, kind of in between Bed-Stuy and Fort Greene, and it was really nice little time in my life. I like New York a lot. I'm hoping to get back for the NYC NFT NYC, and I know that we're going to do some Baller's engagement, and we're going to do some stuff, and just to go out there and see a lot of people that I haven't met in the space before is going to be great. So,
well, you heard it here first. Drew MoHDI going to NFT NYC potential.
we'll see if I go. I don't know. Like, the idea of hopping on a plane is a little bit it's a lot of travel, for a few days, but it would be really a lot of fun to get out there. So
yeah,
I'm on the fence.
All right. Next lightning round question is, you alluded to it before a little bit, kind of captain type thing, but what about trade skills combo? Are you a trade skills combo guy regarding JSA rankings? What do you prefer?
I'm a like, my baller is pretty boring. But when I'm on the marketplace and looking for things, I definitely look for some accessories that I like the accessories a lot, but the skills are something I do consider. I don't want to say one thing or another that's going to shift anyone's thoughts. I mean, like, when it comes down to it too, I there's an aesthetic thing that goes with ballers that I really like, and I think
hold up before you go any further. Ballers Locker Room Podcast is not financial advice. We do not make sure that we don't advise folks on buying skills, traits, or accessories. It's just personal preference. So just for your reference.
And we do not express the views of NFTGenius.
Right.
Oh, wait a second. I do work for NFTGenius, but yeah, a lot of my own thoughts are coming out today. So also with with a lot of NFT sets, I think it's interesting that like, I kind of like the idea that not everything is on the blockchain, and I like the idea that when you look at something, you find a nice little surprise on there, and it's not just all by data, and I know with the JSA rankings and stuff, a lot of it, there's data, like, what happens there is just remarkable, and it has other things in account, like they did pulling the grills and other things. But I think, yeah, I kind of like those nice surprises when you look at at a set, especially a PFP set, and you're like, oh, that guy has oh, I didn't realize that guy has, this going on, or that, so if that makes sense.
So you're alluding more to aesthetics instead of trait skills and combo.
No, I'm just saying that it has some value. I wouldn't say with the ballers that that's the case. I would stick with what what we all know, or at least I think that the community has a really good speculations about things, and yeah, I'll say that. I think that seems reasonable and gives some good information.
All right. If you were to get a custom baller, what would be your top accessory that you would put on him or her, and top body?
Oh boy. Yeah, that's a tricky question, because of the ones that don't exist, I really like yeah, there's a lot of thought in there. I'm thinking about this a little bit, and this one kind of throws me for a loop, because
ones that do exist, ones that do
exist.
Or
I like this. I like the cyborg one a lot. I like the ones that kind of like break from reality a little bit, and then and some of the zombie colors, and I like some of the different. I like things that break from reality. Anything that breaks from reality, and it's hard to have a huge favorite there, but yeah. And don't get me started on sneakers. I think we have like 100 plus accessories or something like that for the sneakers.
We're just sticking to ballers. Insane. So it sounds like a cyborg with a bright zombie cyborg was probably what be your custom baller.
I think something like that, but I definitely want a beard. I know that yeah, I've kind of had a beard or some facial hair for a while, so my baller is pretty clean shaven, and every once in a while I'll clean shave. But if you saw my baller in a back alley, and like you wouldn't be nervous at all. Let's just say that. Like my baller looks pretty friendly, like super friendly. So.
All right, so I have two questions actually for both of you guys on the call. You could see the small forward that I have right there, 1300, the zombie on my background. He's a golden bull, like a New York golden bull, and I've been jockeying with the fact that I might actually change my PFP. Would you guys be pissed at me if I changed my PFP by chance? I mean, this is kind of my, like, the cap is kind of my identity. It kind of looks like me. It's got some thinning hair. I love his look, but I don't know. You guys tell me, Alex or Drew.
I love mixing it up. I like the idea that, you know, you can shift it. As much as I like sticking with your own brand and everything, sometimes you just want to feel a little different. I love it. And I like that. I like that it's number 77 too. That's a good year. It's a good iteration, good numbers.
Doncic.
Luka. Yeah. I mean, this is a PFP project. You're always going to be sentimental to your first one that looks like you, that kind of has your stats potentially. But yeah, give it a try. On Twitter, I changed my PFP to Kobe Vibrant, baller 6693. It's just a definitely more dope baller, but it was fun for a while. But I think, that original PFP that always have a home in your heart. Is that saying go? Something like that.
1942 is just you, man. I saw you change your PFP and I was like, all right, I like it's a dope baller, but 1942 will always be you for me.
Exactly.
It's and Alex, I'm wondering if what was the experience when you changed your PFP? Like, did it jam things up a whole lot?
Oh, no. Oh, look at this guy, getting his design hat on. But yeah, it was definitely something that I feel like, trying to freshen up, trying to see how this new PFP communicates as a baller. Will I get more recognition? But when you're part of the community, baller community, you're always gonna have this mind frame of people's first impressions, first PFP. So, this is the NFT space. So it's always have an impression, and there was no friction between the two, but it just came back to the original PFP.
Yeah, I get that. That's why it's hard. That's why I kind of don't want to shift mine as well, even though I think I could find one that represents me a little bit better. It's like, I think, but also you don't like, MPay, you should just switch it up and just see what happens and see how it feels. It's kind of nice to let things go for a little bit, and like you always can gravitate back to your original.
Definitely. I love different perspectives, and that's why I asked the question. A little bit off topic, but yeah, I had to ask the question because it's in the back of my mind recently. So as far as stories for you, Drew, like we'd like to, so on the podcast, we like to learn a little bit about kind of what your job role is at NFTGenius. Could you give me an understanding of kind of what you do in your creative lead role on a day-to-day basis, and maybe what a strategic outlook looks like on it in general? We'd love to hear.
Yeah. So I'm a creative lead. That means that I work a lot with a lot of design work, and design not only means actual design, but just like overall design for experience and everything. It's a lot of different things, and I weigh in a lot on, I try to weigh in on areas that maybe are outside my realm. So I try to pop into a lot of different meetings and lend my hand into different things. But when it comes down to it, Ballers is a big part of my existence at NFTGenius. And so one of the things that I like to do, and I'm not the greatest designer in the world, and I'm not the greatest like writer, or I'm not the most eloquently spoken, or that I'm not the greatest programmer or anything, but what I really am passionate about is is understanding and designing emotional journeys. And part of that is like, you know, what's going to happen when you look at your baller, or when you get this sneaker, or what I like to think about. I like to think about the experience that people are going through, and like what happens when we, you know, like a lot of that has to do with like numbers too, is like what happens if we release, you know, 100 sneakers with this attribute, and you know, how are people going to feel? You know, I play a lot of poker. I know you play poker, MP, and a lot of people in the community do too. It's that there's that feeling that you get when you lose a big hand and you think you're going to win, you know, and it's like that is it's a chemical story that takes place on the poker table. And I kind of like to do that with everything. I like to design an experience for people, you know. There's so much that goes into it, and it's like I like those journeys, those like chemical, like our bodies are like giving us serotonin and dopamine and all this stuff, and I kind of like to feed that kind of feed that high in a lot of ways. And I feel like with our what we do, it's like everything, and it's just like it's part of the design, is just like creating that experience, I guess. I hope. Oh boy, I think I don't know if I answered that question or not.
No, you
No,
did.
I was like
You're more of
rambling.
a UX and a customer journey mapping guy. So you
And
want the whole feel of it to be something special for all holders. And you're the one in charge of touching all design work, especially the emotional aspect as a holder. Does that sum that up perfectly?
oh, thank you. You should be writing, doing press for me. Holy cow, I love it.
Oh, I'm hired. Is that right?
I would love that. I need a full-time team of advisors and staff working for me. I think like that's how that's what I need in my life.
you guys heard it. He's so important that he's going to have a team of 16 people supporting him.
Is it that I'm so important, MP, or is it that I need I'm so disorganized and all over the place, you know?
No, here's what I'd say to that, though. As a holder, like, you know, as a consumer of the product, what I think about that mindset is um, the importance of my feelings means a lot to NFTGenius, specifically you, right? But NFTGenius, right? They hired you. You have this mindset. They hired you for a reason. And honestly, it makes me think, if they're hiring you, they're hiring other people with similar mindsets. So I'd like people to just understand that's kind of where the company is coming from. Um, Confidence continues to climb up the ladder for me with that type of mindset. Anybody else could just be like, yeah, you know, I'm an incredible, you know, UX UI guy. I design, you know, perfect products, and they don't think about the people. The people are the most important part of everything, in my opinion. I'm in sales myself, and I truly believe that. So I really appreciate your mindset, man.
Oh yeah, and yeah, I mean we got to do things right, you know. And if it wasn't for the community, like like the community really drives what we do. Like, to be honest, like the community is what. Without the community, we're nothing as far as what it is we're doing with ballers and everything, and like UBL and other like just what everyone's doing is fantastic. This podcast. All the like what the whales are doing is just ridiculous, like to add value to everything too. And so I'm really excited about the next phases too. You're going to get more Jonathan. We're going to get more game info, and that I'm really excited about, because I have a lot of there's a lot that goes into, in my job, that goes into what's going to happen in the next phases. And so
Yeah. I mean, we'll definitely dive more into the spaces that was sent out on Thursday. But before we go there, we just want to kind of dive a little more into the story time. Kind of walk us through the design process for the artwork in the early stages of Baller. You know, how the tongue out came to be, how did Curdy fight for the gold grills? Did he had to maybe beat someone up and said, "Hey, we're putting this through," because he told us that he really had to fought for that.
Did I hear tongue out? Ooh,
Oh yeah.
let's go.
Let's talk about some stories. So you know, we were trying to get early on, we had there was the Flow Fest, and I'm sure everyone knows about the Flow Fest packs and the giveaways and everything for ballers. And so that was like, we were kind of rushing to get everything out for the into these packs. And that's where the tongues made it. Some of the tongues made it through, and they were an earlier iteration of the ballers. And then the tongues got pulled because we couldn't, on some of the designs of the ballers, it didn't look good at all. And so there was a decision made from the product and design to like pull that. And so it was like, okay, and some of them got out, and it's pretty funny. And I kind of like that. Like that's one of those surprises where it's not on the blockchain, but when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a tongue out baller, and you just know. And that's awesome. What a surprise for somebody to find that and be like, what? I wonder what that first person was like when that went out, and like when they're like, holy cow, there's a tongue out. That's great.
We could tell you because Justin Brown found it. The guy didn't care. the guy, the guy literally said to Justin Brown, "Hey, it's not on the blockchain. Take it. Send me my $1,000." Is the general gist of it.
That probably started a Justin Brown on a that started Justin Brown to build up his empire, I think. And maybe so, you know, like what a cool experience for Justin too. Like he finds that and he reaches out, and like and that's just awesome right there. And also, what about that guy that sold it? I wonder what he's thinking now. I wonder if he looked back and he's like, oh, I sold that tongue out baller. What was I thinking? You know,
the saga of tongue out, especially on this podcast, continually increases in storyline, and I love it. I mean, I am an owner, so I'm biased, but it is the most rare baller of all time, and there's also still 3 locked up, right? So they're in jail. They're in FlowFest Pack jail, and really there's only 8 out there. Now, that being said, obviously we have this this sort of alpha slash tongue out group, and all of us are never going to sell. So it's also the most diamond handed type of baller as well. I mean, there will be 0 available in the near future, and moving forward, unless we see them unjailed or somebody comes out of nowhere and lists it, which is very possible.
Oh, and that's going to be a fun story when that takes place. On some of the other designs, and I hate to yeah, like moving forward, I guess. Let's talk about the gold grills for a minute. Like we had a few designs we that, you know, like some of the early designs on the ballers too. We had skeletons, we had some really like wild. We had invisible ballers, we had rainbow ballers, we had like things were all, kind of like all over the place, because we experimented with a lot of stuff, and we kind of saw what made sense from a product standpoint, what made sense from like a game standpoint, and where we settled is where we're at. And there were certain things like with the gold grills, we wanted to have parity between the men and the women, but it didn't happen. And so that's why the men have the gold grills, and that's why they're not on the blockchain. The hairs are something obviously that's a little different. So with the gold grills, it's like, oh, okay, you know, Kurt, I liked the gold grills too, and it was like there was that disruption in parity was part of the reason why we didn't have that on the blockchain. And yeah, I'm glad we put it back in. And Kurt knew that looks good, and yeah, he had to push a little bit for that. I think the other one that I fought for was the cyborg guy, and that was something that was like like a few of those unreality things, like it was like, what does that have to do with basketball? And it was like, that was our you know, some of the questions that came up, and it's like, oh no, we need this stuff. So cyborg guy, some of the stuff that didn't make it were like the hockey mask. I know I think I've shared some of that with people in the past. I'm not super active in the Discord, but trying to work on that. We had hockey mask that didn't make it. The crown didn't make it because it would look good on the males in some aspects, and it didn't look great on the females. And part of that was just how hair and crowns work. And so, Alex, I think it looks good on your baller.
Thank you. So just to confirm, the Gold Grills is on the blockchain or is not on the blockchain?
It is not on the blockchain.
Okay.
From my understanding, I'm pretty sure that is not on the blockchain, and we did a pixel scan on stuff. So
both infamous though, the Cyborg Eye and Gold Grills in each of their own rights are infamous, and both have their stories. Both have unique owners that we've come to love in the community and become pseudo famous in ballers and hopefully famous in the world moving forward, as Jeremy
I hope
so eloquently asked us to consider for our own purposes to build a storyline and a sense of being famous regarding ballers. So
and speaking of that, I was gonna for you guys, I'm gonna share the idea, because sometimes it's harder to execute on an idea than it is to just share the idea. But I wanted to do a comic with my baller where the baller would always get into situations where they had to use their basketball skills in order to like save the day. Like maybe there's a house on fire and my baller has to shoot a hoop toward where the faucet is to turn on the fire extinguisher, or there might be maybe there's a baby stuck in a tree or something like that, and they have to use some basketball skills to
use sneakers to jump up 99 jump up to the third limb or something.
I just want some ridiculous situations where, like a 3-panel comic even, where the baller is like saving the day, stopping the bank robbers, or rescuing animals, or whatever it is. So
all right, and then I'll just I'll extend on that thought process. Maybe did you ever play the Simpsons game, like Bart Simpson, and like arcade game?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They have it at the.
You could have your baller walking down, the track, saving people, doing baller type stuff, like in a Simpsons based game. That'd be kind of cool. But they have obstacles to jump up on.
You might be hired as a game designer soon somewhere.
We just got two accu-hires.
Oh boy, this is wild. Yeah, I love these ideas. Yeah, I mean, Alex, how do you plan on making your baller like famous? Like, I love this idea and I like thinking about it.
Well, just recently there was some random guy just climbed the Salesforce tower, all free climbing on it. So he was on the ground floor and went all the way top of Salesforce. So to make my ballers famous, I think I'm just gonna go straight to the top and drop a banner of my PFP. So yeah, no biggie.
That's pretty wild. Why did the guy climb Salesforce tower?
15 minutes of fame, I think.
Yeah.
Was there a purpose behind it though? I'm not sure if
I'm not sure if he was protesting or just wanted to showcase his skills or anything. I stopped at there was a crazy guy climbing Salesforce tower.
Yeah, that's wild. And Pei, what's one of your ideas to make your baller famous?
I haven't quite thought about it significantly. I haven't had the time to I mean, I'm still jockeying with my PFP at this point, right? So I think I need to have a sit down with myself and figure out what I would do. But it's a good question. I don't know the answer to it yet.
A little cheat, like any situation where your ballers are roommates living in a situation is kind of fun, like a Netflix show or animation, something like that.
Yeah, I like to think of, I love that. I like to think of things that literally have not been done before, and something that somebody maybe can relate to, but but it hasn't been done before. So I'm usually one of those unique guys that I only get noticed because of thinking differently and doing something differently. Specifically in sales, I try to be more strategic and figure out different ways to solve problems for my clients, and they appreciate me for it. So I think I might take that path, but I don't know what it is yet.
If you need some ideas, I'll gladly brainstorm with you about
Appreciate
some
that.
things.
So speaking of your experience with the community thus far, Drew, what just give us an understanding, like what are your thoughts on the community?
Oh, I love the community is everything. I love the community. My biggest issue is that it's a full-time job, and what PV does, what Ben's done, what our mods do, it's a full-time job, and like it's really hard to get anything done if you want to reach out and be part of the community, or as far as like work wise, because I can sit there and spend hours just chatting with people on Twitter or in Discord, but I don't do that. I kind of restrain myself. But I sit there and I'll read through the Discord. Sometimes I won't. After like when we were doing sneaker drops, I didn't want to read the Discord a lot because there's a few damaging words that sometimes I like, or feedback, and it's like, oh, and they're so right. But it's kind of like why actors don't read their own reviews or whatever. But I think that with the sneakers, I kind of like backed off a little bit because there was so much work that had to get done. And yeah, I love yeah, I really like what the community is doing. They really are the driving force.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, outside of collecting skill, like high skill for me, the community is certainly my favorite thing. Just getting to know people, learning about who they are, what they do, how I can help them in the future. It's certainly a passion of mine to support the people, and this podcast is one of them. And I thank Alex for putting this together for sure, because without Alex, we wouldn't have this podcast. We wouldn't be able to support the community like we do. So yeah, that's my perspective.
I love it. It's awesome. And also like at some point, I want to hear you guys' origin story as far as how you guys met and like what happened. Like did you guys know each other before Ballers? I'm kind of doubting that, but um, at one point you guys must have like, hey, let's do this, and it's like, yeah, this is good, and like how awesome is that?
Yeah, I was basically like you said, we just came together. I wanted to talk about ballers because I was basically obsessed with it. You should have seen my girlfriend. He's like, "Oh my goodness, can you stop looking at, Raven? Just put your phone down." Uh, but I wrote a little small thread on why I was so bullish on ballers, and people had a good response to it, and it'll definitely allow me to kind of practice my public speaking as well, and just get to know the community more in depth, and that's how we came about. I just messaged in the chat and said, "Hey, who wants to do a podcast with me?" MPay reached out and said, "Yeah." Shooter McGoggles, shout out Shooter, and that's the origin story. Did you
That's
have anything else to add, MPay?
Pretty much as simple as that. Honestly, you asked some people, and I was all for it. I was really all in on Ballers, the community, and was happy to do it.
Uh, Back to your sneaker drop. What was some of the critiques that you got that really maybe that you weren't willing to share?
um it, there was like I'm trying to remember because I try to block as much of that out, but there were a couple things where um like sneakers was hard. It took a little while, and like the ask was pretty big on it. We released 20,000. Also, when we design stuff, it's not like, oh, let's just put this out there. We have to be able to justify every design decision, and we have to be able to know, like, why are we doing this? Does this make sense? Is this going to be like, um, how is this going to work into the future? How is this going to work into product? How does it benefit ballers holders? Like, there's so many aspects to it. And like as a whole, by the way, sneakers was like such a great value to add to the ballers holders. Like no one I don't think anyone knew that the sneakers were gonna come out and like everyone's gonna get these sneakers. And the way we dropped it was great for me because we were still doing a lot of work on the sneakers before as the different sets and rarities came out. And on my side of things kept getting more difficult, but we kept getting better at the process. So, and everything that we did was getting better. In general was just like, the delays were the big issues. I think that kind of like got to me, not hitting those, the drop dates initially and stuff. That hurt. And then I just like go into see some people fudding on that, and it's like, I'm sorry you didn't get your free sneakers right away, and like
it is what it is, man. It is what it is. And so I think 99% of the community will positively give feedback around the sneakers. I think it was very well done. It just, again, it's a communication thing, right? We're working on that between NFTGenius and the community. We need a middle ground, and I think PV is a great middle ground at this point.
PV,
so far.
Yeah. And
one thing I do want to know that maybe I'll be a little bit nosy on here, Drew, is crafting. I would love to know if that's a quote unquote possibility, if anything, right? So I think anything's a possibility, but a lot of people are banking on my potential thought process of crafting. And also, hey, I think Kurt confirmed this. So, I'm not sure if you're willing to share. If you are, great. If not,
I love the idea of crafting, and crafting is a great concept. It applies to ballers really well, and there's a lot that can be done with it. I thought this was a soft show, and I thought you were going to ask soft questions.
Yeah, it was a yes or no question, not
my brain is like, where I don't know if Kurt ever said anything like that.
It was on the official Ballers NFT Twitter handle. So you're covered.
The crafting is awesome. There's a lot of ways that can be done. There's a lot of ideas about how crafting will work, and if and where it will be implemented into NFTGenius and into different sets, into obviously ballers, and how that might work. I love crafting.
It's a consideration at this point. It's not it's not inevitable, but it is a consideration. And I always thought it was a consideration, but I don't want to throw Curdy under the bus.
No, you're not.
I did think that he said it, but
no, I mean, I could see him talking about that for sure. I mean, it's stuff it's stuff that's come up, and the community talks about it. Like crafting in general for other NFT sets has been beneficial. And I know with some NFT sets, they don't like it builds a community. It adds to the overall gameplay. Like when I say gameplay, I mean like the collecting gameplay.
Yeah, the experience of it.
That experience of like, oh, how are we gonna, there's
how do you get to the next level, or is it worth the gamble to shift up in tier? Do you want to keep the base or the common or whatever for future rarity perspective? Things like that are always in consideration. So I get you.
Like I read B Seller's ideas about some of the sneakers stuff, and it's like there's so many different ideas and contributions about this stuff, and how we can add value to ballers as a whole. And that that's what we're working on like all the time. And like I was trying to come up with a good analogy of like, what if you had bought like the first Apple computer, and then forever you expected some returns from being that first person to have an Apple computer, or whatever. Like it's kind of crazy what we do in the NFT space, and it's pretty awesome. And like, to continue to add value, and to continue to grow and be like we have an advantage because we're here for the long haul on things. And I think that translates really well. And I think the community appreciates that, and they understand that, oh yeah, this is we all want to succeed, and we're all doing that things to make that happen. And we're working on some really amazing product stuff.
So you mentioned B Sellers. So shout out B Sellers, Orcs manager. We love him in the community, and thank you for all your ideas. They are getting looked at, obviously, as Drew is saying today. So just confirmation there. That's Alpha from the BLR podcast. But what I would say to this is there's a lot of competing ideas. All right. So and you guys have to decide on. You can't decide on multiple ideas, right? If you do crafting, really, it's only crafting, because then that changes rarity. It changes potential, just design of a particular shoe or sneaker, right? So
I mean, yeah, and it depends on how it's done too. And there's a few different ideas out there about how that can be done. It's tricky too to think about, like when we obviously we had some custom sneakers come out recently, and when we design new things or any adjustments to things, like we take into consideration how that affects the rarities and everything. And I know, and yeah, and we're trying to keep that separate as much as possible.
for sure.
And
For sure.
so, yeah, it's there's a lot of ways that we can do things that don't affect the rarity on the ballers and on the sneakers. That, yeah,
we appreciate your perspective. People appreciate your perspective. Alex, did you have one more thing to wrap up on, or?
Yeah, before on this topic, how likely is crafting? 0 to 100%, and we'll end that discussion there.
Oh, you don't do a scale of -1 to 5 on that?
I like that.
I think that crafting in at NFTGenius is inevitable. So I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't know where that's going to be applied, or I don't know anything about anything. So let's just say,
All
I think it's inevitable. I think we're going to have, as a company, we have enough sets and we work with a bunch of different technologies. And so I think it's inevitable in how we do stuff. And we have to do things right,
All right,
Oh,
there
okay.
you have it, folks. Crafting is confirmed, but it might not be on sneakers. It might be some other stuff.
It might be not on ballers at all. It
Yeah,
might be
I could see that on the founders, whatever you're calling it now, NFT or founders token, or sort of craft two together to make an ultimate token or something.
It could be elsewhere. It could be, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm not confirming it I'm just saying it's probably inevitable where we take somewhere in the future at some point there will be crafting, probably.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Switching gears a little bit. The Thursday Spaces, there were a lot of collabs mentions. We have Kelsey Plum, we have Genies, we have NFT New York's showcase. What was your favorite collab?
I'm the WNBA, that with Kelsey Plum, that is one of my favorites. Like, I really love the NFT NYC, but when I think about that, I don't think that as many of the ballers community is going to NFT NYC. I think that we're going to have, I'm excited about that one too, because I like the offline experiences that we're working on. And, but Kelsey Plum is definitely, that's big. And I just love it for a lot of reasons. I like that we can get the WNBA out there. I think that I love the women ballers are underrated, I think, in a lot of ways. And I think that, like, it's like, holy cow, we're gearing up to be like, oh, people are going to realize that the lady ballers are good ones to have. And like that engagement is hopefully going to pump up a little bit. So
Shout out Kelsey, leading her aces to the first victory of the year. A big win, big win against Phoenix. And I think she scored 20 points, almost a triple double, you know? So shout out Kelsey.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I like to think, oh yeah, we all won because we really did, you know. It's like, yeah, and she's amazing. Like, yeah, it's such a good, it's one of my favorite collabs. I'm my the other collabs, I'm excited about New York just because I like New York and stuff, and I like what we can do with people, and you know, like I also think about that too, is like not everyone is going to be in these cities where we can do events, and that's another thing that we were pushing for, is making sure that holders have you know, experiences, and we can generate those for people that maybe can't be there physically, because probably 90%, 99% of people are not going to be able to make physical events that we plan. They're fun though, and they help build a brand, but it's definitely, there's a lot of people to take care of and to provide value to.
No, of course, that's something that we hear all the time. You know, there's people out in Europe, Asia, you know, Australia, you know, and it's hard to reach everybody. So I think eventually, as we continue to evolve as partners between company and community, there will be a nice you know, solution towards it. I'm confident in that. It's just, you know, it's wonky, man. You got to deal with global stuff consistently. It's not easy, and you don't have this massive user base, you know, squared away in Australia. You don't have this massive user base squared away in Asia or you know, the UK specifically, right? So you want to make sure that you appeal to the majority, but also make everybody feel included. So
It'd be nice if, yeah, it'd be nice if there was like one universe that we could all get into and join up, and
yeah, is that starting? I don't
sort
even
of
know.
a metaverse of sorts.
Well, dude, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on. Really, it was an exceptional time spending you know, the hour plus with you, and really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Anytime, Sue. I could talk about this for a long time. I could just chat forever, but I do have to bite my tongue on a lot of stuff, and you know, like, oh, can we talk about this stuff? But yeah, I love talking
fair.
about.
That's fair. You opened the door. You opened the door a little bit for me, so I tried to do it for the people, not for me.
Oh yeah, and I love talking about ballers. Anyone can, you know, you can follow me on Twitter. You can send me DMs or whatever, write, call, whatever. I like it. If I'm available, I'll try to reach out and stuff.
Yeah, so give us a quick plug. Give a plug to the people. Your Twitter, your Instagram, potentially like your website where you design on, anything that's, you know, personal based, anything you'd like to.
You know, well, my moniker is MoHDI, MoHDI. But most of the stuff, you know, if you want to reach me, you can find me through the BLR's Twitter, and you can find me, like, I'm pretty easy to find on the Discord, even though I'm not as active there. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find, and if you want to reach out, like, I'm not going to plug myself on a Ballers show. Like, we work to make a awesome product and for awesome people, and it's and also that is reciprocated, where there's awesome people that are working to make us work to make great product. And so, you know, like, if there's all the ideas that we see in the community it's really great to see what people are working on, and like, it's awesome. I love what we're doing.
That wraps up episode 12. Thank you so much for listening, and a special thank you to MoHDI. Please send any additional comments or questions on our Twitter at BallerLockerR1. See you next week.